All right, boys and girls, Benjamin Bok Troy here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a couple of incidents from the 2025 F1 Dutch Grand Prix. I don't know why my mind blanked there. Mainly the Sainz Lawson incident and the Leclerc-Russell incident. But before we begin, I want to bring your attention here to the 2025 Driving Standards Guidelines from the FIA. Mainly this part right here, overtaking on the outside of a corner and the chicanes and S-bends. So overtaking on the outside of a corner. Overtaking on the outside will always be viewed as more difficult maneuver to accomplish. To be entitled to be given room, including at the exit, when overtaking on the outside, the overtaking car must 1. Have its front axle ahead of the front axle of the other car at the apex, 2. Be driven in a controlled manner from entry to apex and to exit, and 3. Be able to make the corner within track limits. And here, chicanes and S-bends. The above guides for inside and outside may apply for each element of the combination. Generally, priority will be given to the first corner element. Okay, so now remember what we just discussed here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first incident. Okay, so this is the Sainz and Lawson incident. We'll go ahead and watch it at full speed, and then we'll slow it down and break down why I think this rule needs to change. Again, I'm not trying to argue for what happened during this race. I'm trying to fix the problem for future races. So they're going to turn 1 here. Lawson loses it for a second there. They make contact, and Sainz gets a 10-second penalty. So there's a couple issues that I have with this rule. Let's go ahead and slow it down, and I will explain to you exactly what the problems I have are when we get to them. So this is the end of lap 26, about to start lap 27. Lawson doesn't get a great start, as you can see here before we even start the video. He's further back from Leclerc ahead than Sainz is to him, behind him. So Lawson coming around the final corner here, he knows he doesn't get a good restart. As you can see, he takes a peek over to his right-hand side mirror to track Sainz. He sees Sainz is close. Further down the straight here, he peeks over to the left again, sees that Sainz has closed in even more. Sainz starts to get closer and closer, and at this point, Sainz dummies to the right. You can see he kind of moves over to the right a little bit. Lawson responds, starts to move over to the right, but once he notices that Sainz isn't trying to attack down the inside, he kind of moves back over to the left a little bit, which he's allowed to do. I don't have an issue with that. You can make one move to defend and then one move to open up for the corner. So nothing wrong there. The first problem I have with this rule is kind of the wording of the rule, the apex part of it. It doesn't specify what apex we're talking about. As you can see here, Hadjar doesn't have a great start to the the safety car restart either. So Russell was close behind. Russell was close enough to kind of spook Hadjar to go out wide a little bit. So Hadjar is going to be clipping his apex at a different spot. He's not even going to be hitting the inside. Now Russell, who went in tight to try and feign an attack, is going to be clipping the inside of the corner. His apex is going to be different from Hadjar's. And then you have Leclerc here, who doesn't have anybody to attack up front and doesn't have anybody behind to defend from. He's going to be taking the normal racing line, so he will be hitting the apex where they normally do. And then you have Lawson here, who's even tighter than Russell is. His apex is going to be different from the 3 cars ahead. So I assume that they're talking about the apex of the car ahead that's defending, which is Lawson. But that doesn't specify in the guidelines, and I think that's also one of the things that's kind of confusing people that don't really understand what the apex is. I think they're talking about Lawson's apex. So when he hits his apex, if he is ahead, then he gets to dictate the line. But I think that's a point of confusion for a lot of people. And I do wish that the rule or the guidelines kind of specify that a little bit in the future to avoid something like this from happening. So that's issue number 1 with that rule. Issue number 2 is right around here. Now, I think F1 is the only racing series that has this front axle at the apex rule, which is just kind of dumb. Other racing series would allow for a driver in Sainz's position to have earned some space on the outside, and the driver ahead, Lawson in this case, can't just push him off track to maintain his position. Now, in a racing series like F1, where overtaking is already difficult enough as it is, especially at a track like Zandvoort, I think they would be doing anything they can to try and encourage overtaking. And even at a track like Spa, where DRS trains are just all over the grid from the front, the two McLarens sitting behind Verstappen in the sprint, in the midfield, and at the back of the grid where DRS trains are just the name of the game. I think they need to be doing all that they can to encourage more fighting on the grid or on the track, more opportunities at wheel-to-wheel racing. Now, can you honestly look at this and tell me that Sainz doesn't deserve any space on the exit? I'm not talking about the past race. I'm talking about going forward. If this happens again, they need to change the rules so that Sainz, or a driver in Sainz's position, should at least be able to stay on track and keep the fight going. Because at this point, I think he's done enough to earn that space. And Lawson, look how close Sainz is, and Lawson is still able to just push him off track and say, well, I had the corner, he should concede. What kind of racing is that? That's not the type of racing that I want to see. And I saw this dumb comment on another video where somebody was like, what, you want to see them attacking and defending at every corner, losing time to the cars ahead? Yes, it's a race. That's exactly what I want to see. If you can't defend your corner, or you can't defend your position, and you start losing time to the cars ahead, I don't want to have to quote Christian Horner here, but fix your bleeping car, right? Fix your car if that's the case. This is Formula One. I don't know what to tell you. I want to see racing. If you can't defend your position without forcing them off track, then you need to fix your car or you need to get good. I don't know what to tell you. I want to see that type of racing. I don't want to see this where the car who is barely ahead at the apex can dictate the line and then push everybody else off track. It's just stupid. It's dumb. It doesn't make for good racing. And it enrages fans when we see stuff like this, as you can tell by the comments in every F1 video on the Dutch Grand Prix since the race ended. So that's my second issue, and that's probably the biggest issue there. And I hate that you can just push drivers off track. Now, let's go to the third issue that I have with this incident. We'll have to rewind a little bit. So Lawson is going in tight because he's trying to defend from Sainz, but he opens up a bit, and then when Leclerc cuts in front of him to hit his apex, Lawson loses control of his car, gets a snap there, and that's what causes the contact. Sainz does not cause the contact here. Lawson losing control of the car causes the contact. Again, this is the only racing series where another car can lose control of their car, hit you, and you are the one that's penalized. Again, this needs to change going forward here because I think Sainz did all he could to avoid this contact. If we take a look, he makes one correction and then another correction as he gets hit. So he's trying to avoid the contact there, and it's Liam Lawson who decides that he wants to drive Sainz off the track and then loses control of his car that initiates the contact. So again, this needs to change. If a driver can't keep control of their car and they're the one that initiates the contact, I don't care where you are on track. I think whoever loses control of their car, they're the ones that needs to be penalized and not the person trying to avoid contact. So I want to see this rule change going forward. Again, we can't retroactively change this rule here, and we can't do anything about the penalty. By the word of the law, Sainz deserved the penalty. He got the penalty. Fine. I'm not arguing that. I'm not even arguing against Liam Lawson like some other idiots are and just hating on Lawson for the sake of hating on Lawson. I think we need to change this rule so that we get better racing in F1, and that's all that I'm arguing in this video. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the Leclerc-Russell incident because I don't think it was too dissimilar from this incident. This is on a VSC restart. It goes green right about here. Russell doesn't get a great exit out of there, which compromises him for this left-hander. Leclerc gets a little bit of a sniff on the inside there, but doesn't have enough to make the move, and then they go down this DRS straight to the next right-left, and they make some contact here. Leclerc goes off track, gets an advantage, takes the position, and then he goes off ahead of Russell. So what my problem is that if we're going by the rule of the word of the law, front axle to front axle at the apex, or you don't deserve any racing room, then I don't understand why Leclerc wasn't penalized for this. And another issue, which doesn't have anything to do with that rule, but during the race, he had his lap time deleted for going off track when this happened. During the race, lap time deleted for going off track. But then after the race, I don't know why they decided to wait until after the race when there was more than half of the race left to go to make a decision. After the race, they get to the steward's room and they say he didn't get an advantage by going off track. So there's a contradiction there. They delete his lap time for going off track during the race, but then they don't penalize him for gaining an advantage by going off track. So again, that's another inconsistency with the stewards, but that's an issue that we've had for years and years now. So if we go up to where Russell is at the apex there, I don't think Leclerc is that much closer than Sainz was. He never gets the front axle. But he's not penalized for doing what he does. So in this instance, he shouldn't have had any right to room on the exit here either. But then he goes off track. He comes back on track, hits Russell. He goes off track. He initiates contact. And then he takes a position, but then he doesn't get penalized for this. I don't understand what is going on anymore in that steward's room, because I don't think this is too dissimilar from the first incident. Yeah, a couple of the details are a little bit different, but the main points are there. He wasn't alongside. Contact was made. And he doesn't get penalized. So I don't know. If somebody could explain to me what I'm missing here, I would definitely love that. Okay, so I decided to put both of the incidents on screen together just so you can kind of see that how far alongside they were the car ahead is not too dissimilar in Sainz and Leclerc's case. So yeah, they're not that far apart, which is why I'm a bit confused as to why Sainz is penalized and Leclerc is not. So I mean, what's the solution to this? I think one solution is make the mirrors bigger, because the reason why they changed the rule for 2025 was because drivers were getting into incidents and they were saying they couldn't see the cars behind them. They've got blind spots. Well, I don't think the FIA regulates how big they can make their mirrors. I think the FIA regulates how small they can make their mirrors. So make your mirrors bigger. And if you want to keep them this small and keep those blind spots, well, if you're the one that initiates contact, then it doesn't matter what the rules are. If you're the one that initiates contact, and then you're the one at fault. I don't know. I think that's one part of the solution. I know that there's, they're going to have to change other rules and regulations to try and encourage more overtaking. But I mean, if they're complaining about how they can't see around them, then make the mirrors bigger. Regulate the mirror size so that everybody has to have at least a big enough mirror to see a certain amount around their car, because this is just stupid. If you can't see around your car, I think that's on you. You need to fix your car, or you need to get better at driving. But anyway, that's my thoughts on these two incidents and that rule. Again, I'm not arguing for the penalty or retroactively changing the penalty. Nothing can be done about that race, but I think we can still fix it going forward. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think the Sainz penalty was harsh? Do you think Leclerc deserved the penalty? Are you also confused as to why one person got a penalty, the other person didn't, for a very similar incident? And what do you want to see in the future when it comes to wheel-to-wheel racing? That's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you think I've earned it, feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscribe. Stay tuned for more. Remember to eat your bok choy, and I'll see you all in the next one.